Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the reboot of On the Edge. I am your host, Dan Davis, and tonight we've got a very technically, artistically slimmed down version. I got no intro. I've got none of the music, anything like that. We're just, I think, going to jump right into things, and you can tell, we're in a little bit different format here. We're sitting around. It's evening here in Iowa. Kevin is in the United States, and we're happy to have him here tonight. And we are going to talk tonight about the honeymoon being over for Donald Trump and for Pope Leo the 14th, and what does that mean for us? What's next? So I think rather than a real intro, we'll just go ahead and kind of do a little bit of a roundtable, introduce ourselves. If you followed this show at all, you kind of know who we are. I'm the host, Dan Davis, and I think you know this guy next to me.
One of the founders. I guess I'm the founder, even though I do on the podcast. But yeah, I'm Kevin. It's great to be back in the States. And I really, a lot of my time is spent thinking about what's going on in America. So it's actually kind of nice to actually be in America, talking about America. So it's pretty cool. But I'm drinking a Mexican beer. So this is... it's all from watching. That's for you guys. Gracias.
Oh yeah, part-time contributor, casual enjoyer of tea. It's really good. Check it out. Ready to be back on the edge in the catacombs, and happy to be back here.
We're hearing.
I guess we got an echo. I think your mic. I think your mic might still be on. See if yours.
Wouldn't be a good podcast.
I know. If there's no text, it's literally not a traditionalist podcast.
So I'm
Dominic Davis. I am part of the Edge team, and I tend to be the guy that's kind of falling off the. Oh no, you're right.
I think you're.
Oh, I'm the reason it's a problem.
You gotta mute your mic, Dominic.
I just muted my mic. Okay, that fix us. I think that fixes us. Mom's the consultant associate in the background.
Technical director.
Okay, I think that would have been the problem.
Okay.
Sorry. So again, yeah, that's my bad, guys.
We're live.
So I'm the one that's always falling off the edge, making the issues. the technical problems are usually mine, but I'm excited to get back into our Thursday show. I think the last we maybe recap the last month and a half. That's been
pretty wild. May and June always is. We've had weddings, we've had ordinations, we've had
being a big one.
Guests over, spending the week at the house. Kevin traveling. It's been the crazy Easter week. Yep. Yeah. And next Thursday is, by the way, Ascension Thursday.
Yeah.
So we
an evening mass probably here too.
Right. But anyways, let's go ahead and maybe jump into the topics. We were going to start tonight, at least, with a discussion of Donald Trump and Pope Leo the 14th, and kind of get the roundtable of thoughts on who are these guys, and what was the honeymoon like, and what is real life going to be like now that the honeymoon is over. I know for me, I'll just say real quickly that Leo put out a tweet talking about saying basically Francis is in heaven. Okay. Yeah. And my response to that to everybody out there was, guys, the honeymoon's over, take some vitamin C for the hangover. But I know you're semi-trads now. They're basically, I think we're kind of back to life as it was under Francis. That's kind of my initial thought. What does anybody else think?
And it was even worse than that. Someone please pull up this tweet. I'm pretty sure he said that Francis is back in the hall of his father or something like that. Back. He said back. He did not say he is in heaven. He said he is back, which is another absolute mistake, at least. I don't know if it's a heresy, it's a mistake. So that he is returning. He is returning to heaven, which of course that cannot be because his soul was created.
And I don't think because we are living in the modern era where everything is recorded. Pope Leo the 13th probably had gaffes the same way, but they weren't caught on TikTok to be dished around. And there was also a pope who in the 10-1100s, I don't remember his name, he preached a sermon saying that the saints wouldn't enjoy the beatific vision until the Last Judgment.
John the 22nd.
Okay,
Yeah,
John the
okay.
22nd. Yeah. But then later, he did, but he didn't teach it ex cathedra, so he wasn't in heresy. So, I feel like maybe to sure you can point these things out, but I think they're they would be nitpicks.
And I think we're kind of in a new era with this too, because how many times have we had to listen to the Pope splainers, the apologists, come into this kind of a situation when the Pope says something outrageous and they said, well, it was a bad translation.
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
yeah.
This was in English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's something that you get your people. I was listening to a lot of Michael Knowles actually today, kind of in preparation, just see what do the influencers think. And man, he's just the consummate Pope splainer. And you get a lot of other people like that. They will take what a Pope said and say, well, this is what he actually meant.
Yeah.
Instead of, okay, this is what he said. It's easy enough to understand what he meant by what he said. And if you have to translate what he said, de-scramble it, then there's clearly something wrong.
Well, I think you're moving into a different era, like you said, with the Pope Bob or Mr. Bob.
Bob from Chicago.
Bob from Chicago.
There
There will be no translation issues. 'Cause that was the thing with Francis, that a lot of it was like, oh, well, this is what he said in Italian, and this is kind of what it translates to. And there's a lot of especially for the American Pope splainers, that it was an easy argument to take. It's like, that's not what he meant. With this guy, it's going to be black and white.
Well, and he's been up front from the start. He's like, his first day, he's like, well, I'm going to be right along, be following behind what Francis did. I'm a Francis, guy. And he was the head of the dicastery of bishops. He said he met with Francis at least once a week. This is a Francis guy. This is right. And this is what was so crazy. I'm sure we'll get more into this as we go. So crazy about Trad Inc., the semi-trads online. This is the Taylor Marshalls who just went bonkers about it, right? The first week, that was the honeymoon, right? That was we got our guy. We got him.
Well, and let me tell you the thing that was to me was the most crazy. Okay. So he comes in, he's got a certain demeanor about him. He's got a certain bearing about him. He kind of looks like a nice guy.
He looks good.
He's a Cubs fan, which that's heresy all by itself. But he comes in and the very first thing he says is that I am basically pledging my allegiance to Vatican II. If he had come in his opening speech and said, I am pledging my allegiance to the unchangeable Catholic faith. Right. Okay. Oh, I just stood up and said, well, maybe we need to give this guy a chance. Very first sentence, he goes straight to Vatican II.
Well, on the flip side, though, he did actually lead the Hail Mary. And he has come out publicly, in praise of Mary, and he chanted the Regina Caeli. He does at least have an external devotion to Our Lady, which is, it's something,
right?
And Francis had an external devotion to paganism, Mother Earth. That's a fair point. Something it is a better
at
step.
Least Pope Leo is definitely hearkening back to tradition. Even if he's not espousing, the fact that he chose the name Leo the 14th,
right? That says something.
Which in my mind, that is like the most dangerous possible scenario of someone that looks good but has the wild left, wild awful views of Vatican II.
But I'll tell you what. Go ahead, and I'm going to give you a theory.
I think that's what my fear was, but I actually think it actually helped a lot, exactly because Trad Inc. went in the first week and they were like, we're all in, baby. This is our guy. We are behind him 100%. And then after about a week, this is the whole honeymoon phase ending. That's the whole point of the show, right? The honeymoon phase did not last long because all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh, wait. He believes everything that Francis believes. And what's crazy, though, that Trad Inc. went along with it. Like they know this. Taylor Marshall, the week before the election or before the conclave, perhaps, he was saying how Prevost was one of the most Masonic and one of the most leftist cardinals there is.
Really?
Then he got elected, and all of a sudden,
He deleted his video.
Did he really?
Yeah, and Mario saved it. So I mean,
Nice.
Mario, no Sardo watch.
Oh,
they
these
saved
guys
it down.
just stepped in it. They really stepped in it, and I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I saw Michael Lofton, who is, I think he's, or I don't even know what he is now, but I actually agreed with the post because he's saying this too. He's like, you guys stepped in it. You really, you accepted this guy with no evidence. Just because it was hope, which I get.
Oh yeah,
but
he comes out with the Mezzetta.
Yeah,
it's like, we have the next, Leo the 13th. He's he's gonna be so good for the common man because he say, I guess Bob said in a little diatribe that he specifically took the name Leo the 14th because of Leo the 13th, also based heavily on Rerum Novarum, and Leo the 13th's encyclicals, championing the common man and condemning socialism, communism, and parts of capitalism. So he's trying to sidle into your traditionalists. He's trying to cozy up to your trad Inc., but also while praying in front of the tomb of Francis and saying he's gone back to the halls of his
I
father.
felt him in my mass. When I was praying mass, I felt him there with me. It's like he is saying he's an M. Sorry that we've
no, and we've actually got a Catholic Family podcast. I might hit the Traditionalist as well, but I think we've got the antidote for this, right? So Eric Kosovich, who did some great readings for us of Pope Pius XII's encyclicals, is now going to go through and do Pope Leo the 13th's encyclicals. And what we're hoping to do is see if we can find a priest, a good educated priest who can come on and give us basically a summary of what Pope Leo was talking about in these various encyclicals. We'll kind of put them out in coordination with each other and actually go through and see what Pope Leo taught. And that's going to be kryptonite to the modernists, I think.
Yeah, and we actually have, hopefully, so it's tentative, we'll have Father Benedict Hughes to explain. I think the first one will be the encyclical Sagis Cogitum. So that will be, again, one of those that I believe talked about social issues and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure, again, this hope that Leo the 14th is going to be just like Leo the 13th. It's like, no, that's not going to work that way.
No, and the semi-trad, I can't believe the semi-trads, especially, who came out and just went all in on him. Why did they not look at Father James Martin, and realize that he was 100% behind him from the start, as were Supich and
Nancy Pelosi. Like, those are the guys that are backing him. It's like that just tells you everything you need to know.
And someone, Dad pulled it up on the screen a bit earlier, but someone was saying how he is someone who has protected pedophiles. Yeah, he is full on hardcore with putting down the actual Catholics in China, those trying to be Catholic. So he's working with the communists to subvert Catholicism, actually subvert it, and which Francis did too. And so this is a guy who doesn't do anything right except for he says he prays the Regina Caeli, which okay, that again is a step from paganism.
But for your multitude of people who are looking at this, they are looking at the front pages. They are looking at the headlines, and that's all they look at. They see, the Pope dresses in the red Mezzetta, return to tradition. The Pope Chancellor Regina Caeli, return to tradition. Habemus Papam. We have a new Pope. He's not Francis. Everything is so great because they're not going to skim. They're not even necessarily surface level Catholics, but they're just they don't know what to look for.
But see, those types of people, that's fine. I think that's an invincible ignorance, right? Really, many people are trying to be Catholic. Anyone watching this, if you're in the Novus Ordo, I'm glad you're watching this because I think you're looking for truth, and that's the main step. Look for truth. Try to be truthful. Look for truth. What my problem is Trad Inc. This is the Taylor Marshall. This is the dads with the microphone and the camera who are out there, going out and apologizing. I mean, I should say defending, using apologetics for this man immediately before they even know who he was. It's just absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous. And you see, I really think, and there's some of these guys more than others who I think are actually looking for truth. They're actually going to see this. They're going to say, I cannot, I've said this for weeks now, I cannot do this for 20 years. I can't do it. I cannot do this. I'm not going through 20 more years of Francis, and we've seen it. The honeymoon's over. It's over.
Right.
It's over.
pretty
This
quickly,
guy
too.
is Francis
Yeah.
2.0.
What
He
is
is.
it? Two weeks in?
Yes.
We're like
Yeah,
2
like
weeks in,
hardly
it's
even.
Not
Yeah, it's
even.
already,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
clear now that this guy is going to do the same things Francis did. And I'm telling you guys, this is why we need to push these shows. You guys share, share, subscribe. Seriously, I mean,
Mhm.
and everyone who's not on the Traditionalist, you probably watch a lot of you watching Catholic Family Podcast. Go and subscribe to the Traditionalist because that's where we do a little bit more of the cultural topics and whatnot.
Political type stuff.
Political.
Yeah.
It's growing slowly. We need to get to at least 1,000 subscribers, then we can do more with the channel. So go subscribe to that. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy time, and I think it's the time where we can really put out information, send people the links to samrai.org to the Bishop Sanborn, Bishop Dolan's old group SCG, because there's gonna be a lot of people who are like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can only be
And-
intellectually dishonest for so long. I mean, you can't live. You
Yeah.
can't.
Some people can.
Well,
do
some,
that.
some
if
people
you're
can do
of
that their
good-
whole life,
Yeah, if
but
you're
you know,
of good meaning, if you're trying to find what's right.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
I'd
you
imagine you have a lot of Nova Sordo priests right now.
That are
starting
questioning.
to question. It's like, okay, I was just gonna do this until Francis was out. It's like, okay, and then maybe we go back to tradition. And now it's like you said, 20 more years of this. That's terrible. It's-
I mean, you're defending the indefensible, the increasingly indefensible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're all these mental gymnastics. They have to break you at some point.
But we saw. Okay, so we saw some of like Taylor Marshall and some of them. Eric Sammons, who I think was pretty much already fallen onto the Nova Sordo side, really fall hard. I mean, it's like this fence, the fence sitters. The fence pretty much collapsed, right? And so you did have some voices that were falling the other direction too, the right direction. And I don't know how many I want to name here, but like for instance, we had the show with Stephen Cox, who I don't know if he's formally officially state of the contest.
No, he's close.
If he's not, he's close.
Yeah.
But I
Even
mean,
if you're commenting, let us know.
yeah,
if you're watching.
if you're watching, yeah, please. But obviously he's a guy who is friendly to the position. He's very friendly to us. We were extremely happy to have him on. But I think you're also seeing that movement with some who were on the fence that are now just slightly, maybe not super outwardly, but they are definitely moving in our direction.
Yeah. Well, I think for anyone who is, I see a comment here from Bill. Bill, it was good to see you in Denver, by the way. He says, I just read Saji's Koji to him. It absolutely contradicts everything the Conciliar Church teaches. And this is really the point. Well, we're going to try to provide this on the channel. If anyone watching this is doubting this, they're like, okay, yeah, we're on the edge. Go and read the encyclicals from the popes before Vatican II.
Yeah.
Go and read them. You don't need to listen to us. Okay, please listen to us. But then after we're done, after we're done, like, share, subscribe, follow us on Patreon, give us some money, all that stuff. But seriously, go and read these encyclicals. You're gonna be amazed.
Yeah,
You'll be amazed by how clear it is.
Yeah,
right.
And that's one of the greatest differences between post Vatican II garbage is that it's word salad. It's just like some of this stuff sounds about right, but it's kind of amorphous and it doesn't necessarily make clear sense. You go back to the original encyclicals, it's like, okay, no, this is faith, doctrine, teaching,
right,
and it is black and
if
white.
you don't, let you be anathema. No mixed languages. It is this is the way it is. You don't question it, because because the church says so. And now it's you can interpret it this way, and that's why your Pope splainers have so much credibility, is because for the past, ever since Vatican II, they've used language which can be interpreted.
Yeah.
They use this flowery, ambiguous language, like Kamala Harris, but with a little bit more,
or they don't,
more sense,
or your prevost who comes out and says directly that he is encouraging synodality and ecumenism. These were condemned by the church.
Yeah.
Especially ecumenism. You cannot say the other religions have a way to heaven. Period.
Right.
This is real clear teaching, guys. So I mean, I think people miss the forest for the trees. You have Eric Sammons. They go, yeah, but no. Your Pope just said this. He just said we are following a path of ecumenism. Go look it up. He just I saw it. He just said it. So that is condemned. You can't. That's not Catholic. So anyone watching this, please, again, go read these documents. You're going to see real quick.
We do encourage that you do your own research, because it'll only help you.
And another thing that I would really encourage is, if you're, I don't know how many people are out there. If you're out there in the thick of battle on X or Facebook or anywhere else where there's a lot of spiritual warfare going on and debate and stuff like that, Just some advice maybe for those of you who are out there. One of the things that's key for me is that, because I'm out there quite a bit, Kevin and I share an account. It's kind of hard to tell. It's a little bit confusing, and we've gotten written up for that for sharing the account. But I'm a big believer that the truth of our position, it sells itself. We don't really, and for the most part, those who are not of our position are not. You're not going to explain it to them. You're not going to get them to say, "Aha, oh, I get it." We got to lead by example. Okay. So do what we can to, rather than make accusations, ask questions. To the extent that you can be gentle. To that you can. Somebody asks a good question, tell them it's a good question, okay, and try to answer it as charitably as you possibly can. This is a time, I think, when we, as more than almost any other, we especially need to act like Catholics publicly, and I think that's incredibly important.
And it goes along with this comment from Eric. He says for a pop. I'm pretty sure he meant for a pop. I mean, people are hungry for a pop, Eric. I mean,
these three have a pop sitting right here.
But the point about the Pope, it's a really good point, and I think you're absolutely right, and that's exactly why we need to show them that the state of a contest, what we believe firmly in the papacy. We really respect the papacy. That's why we say this man cannot possibly be the Pope.
It's because we believe in the papacy that we know that Leo is Bob from New York, not from Chicago, and not Leo the 14th.
And it might be a good idea. I was thinking about this on the way home today as I was kind of getting ready for the show, and I thought it might be something to consider us doing a series on. Okay, here are the common questions that we get from, because I can guarantee you right now, I don't know if anybody else is feeling it out there, but the hate mongers are cranking it up. And I think, I made the comment and it got a lot of likes that basically said that we went through, as head of a contest, we went through 40 years of being ignored. Then we went through 10 years of being laughed at. And now we're going through the persecution stage. And I think what you're starting to see already is because Bob from Chicago, hopefully the 14, whatever you want to call him, because he is 100% son of Vatican II. He was born in 1956, so he would have been 2 years old when Pope Pius XII died. So he lived his entire life under Vatican II, and he just basically doesn't even give ear to tradition. It's all Vatican II. And so he's got a group of Gen Zers and basically cohorts, young kids who are coming up who don't know what the true Catholic faith is. So they see set of a contest and they're just like, you guys are the devil, and they're starting to come after us. And I know one thing I'm seeing a lot, you see the drones, the bots. You do see literal bots, but I mean basically these zombies out there. Instead of a contest is Protestantism, is Protestant. You're Protestant. You're Protestant.
See, but if you're a Protestant, you're saved.
You're saved. Yeah.
That shows you how, first of all, how we're right and how scared they are. They're really scared of that, I think. And I think I want to add, exactly. I saw this from Barb. I disagree, Barb. I do think, they haven't gotten it yet, but I followed them a lot. I think John Henry Weston, who's the founder, I believe, I think he's of goodwill. I really believe that. He has not fully realized what we realize. But really pray for these guys, because I think some of them really are trying. There are State of a Contest who write for LifeSite News. I know that for a fact. So I don't think, if you're truly controlled off, I don't think that's going to happen.
Michael Matt's a hack, that's for sure.
Oh, he's the remedy. Yeah, he's hilarious. He is literally a joke. I mean, he's the one who'll go and say, like, I've watched his video and say, we will not stand for this monkey business out of Rome anymore. And then the next video, we must be very respectful to the Pope. He's a total joke. And it's, again, these people who they found their shtick. They're cut in a corner, and this is what they have to do. They have to resist now. And that was a question. Like, if it had actually been Burke or Sarah or one of these guys they actually wanted, what would these R&R guys? I guarantee you, they would have. They can't accept it. They make all their money on resisting. So they Taylor Marshall and the ilk, they have to be the interpreters of the faith.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you've you become so many mouths of Sauron, once you net yourself that position of Pope Splainer or Pope Interpreter, that's a lot of power for
You are the magisterium. You are the magisterium.
Yeah, you get to say what the Pope. You get to just invent what the Pope means. You get to interpret it and share it to your massive audiences, and you've become the little Pope. I mean, you can, and there's a lot of power and fame that comes with that, and it's never been so easy, for the unwashed masses to just take power into their own hands, which isn't it isn't a good thing.
I feel like that's somewhat unique to our time and age. That you might have been able to go out on a soapbox and give your spiel, but anymore, if you hit a niche crowd, you're hitting 5 people in Kentucky and 30 people in California, and you have this huge amalgamation of people that end up being in an echo chamber with you that don't necessarily, they're not the demonstrate population of what's actually happening.
What's really out there. Yeah.
So I think you might see a little bit of an echo chamber in these R&R groups that's not necessarily indicative of the the common person's real feel about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess, how many parishes or how many priests hold the R&R position?
A lot.
More than
1,000 plus, right? We just talked about that.
Would that be your
the
SSPX?
Mostly,
SSPX
SSP is kind of, but it's mostly SSPX.
Yeah.
They're the true, hey, this guy's the Pope and we don't care.
Right.
Even though now they're saying, have you heard that they just announced that they will accept confirmation from any Novus Ordo bishop for suppress. So they're always stepping closer.
Yeah, that was my question. It's been a fascinating thing. I put out a post the other day, and it was just kind of a curiosity as much as anything, going through all the different groups and how many priests and how many bishops each one had, and it cleared up some misperceptions for me. I didn't realize that the SSPX Resistance had any bishops, but they've got like literally 7, not even counting Bishop Pfeiffer. Yeah. And so they're pretty well stocked there.
Bishop Williamson was he did his job.
He was prolific.
We think. That's another one. Anyway.
Yeah, Vigano. That didn't even count. Bishop Vigano.
He did all of them in private.
In private, yeah.
Which is not Catholic. That's a whole other topic. We'll say that for the priest sometime. That's a good one for Father McKenna.
Yeah.
Catholicity of ordinations and consecration. That's a good one. It's not necessarily validity and licitness. It is also, I know Bishop Everness has talked about this, the Catholicity. You can't do things in the dark. You can't we did it. And sure, someone would say Archbishop took, but there were 2 official witnesses, etc. So anyway, but that's a whole other topic. But real quick, before we get going, Sean, thanks for tuning in. It was good to see you in Denver, by the way. And I do want to shout out our official Traditionalist T-shirts.
Yeah.
We got them from our good friend Dominique, who has other material. There's cups as well. She's working on whiskey glasses, which I'm excited for. We got T-shirts up now. Dad's got one on. You can see his nice. It actually looks pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. Yeah,
cool. It feels good. They're really good quality.
Yeah, good quality.
Cotton. You see, the little guy on the front. God, family, country. This one says tradition is not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire, which I love it.
Yep,
that's kind of overall.
Thanks, Dominique.
Who's that?
Yep,
I don't remember. I think it was some. I think it's some Russian. I don't know.
And coming,
it's like Chesterton.
Related note here, coming the end of May or sometime in June, we've got mugs from Catholic Family Podcast that we actually bought a bunch of them just to give away originally, and we had some left, and so we're going to sell those through Star of the Sea.
Also Etsy,
gifts. I think it's through Etsy.
Also Etsy. Yeah. Adeline Prints on Etsy, by the way.
Yeah, I think it started seas on Etsy. And so by all means, let's get things rolling there. And if we have any chance to do, we don't make any money. I can tell you, especially in the mugs, we lost a ton of money off the mugs, and we'll probably lose. I don't know if we'll make any money off this either. So we're not in it to make money. We're in it to expand our brand and just get people thinking in terms of Catholic Family Podcast and the Traditionalists.
And they're cool. I think we've made good logos. We want to make just good material. I mean, that's part of it, that we do just want to make Catholic stuff. I know some people don't like making money. I kind of get that, but I also think it's insane. So many people are willing to pay so much for Amazon and Netflix and all these things, and you're not willing to pay a little bit for Catholic? I just don't quite understand. Like, why can't you give money to people who are actually creating good content?
Right.
Yeah.
So I just don't really understand that mindset of like, well, it's Catholic, so you can't make money for it.
No, granted, that's not necessarily why we do all
no,
this.
no, but
that argument is made. It's like you know.
No, but I mean, there are some of our content makers out there who are trying to make a go of it and trying to make a career out of it. And if we support them, they can commit full time to it.
It's like Dominic
Cageso,
fantastic stuff. And if he's able to take that on like full time as his job, then we get more.
Or
the couples podcast. You know, it's like I would love to be able to help support. They have a young family. They're looking for a little more income. You know, so there are things. It's not just like, hey, Kevin wants to go to a beach somewhere. I would like to do that too, but I mean that's fine. But I had someone in Omaha ask like, hey, are you guys? So do you still have to work, or do you make enough money for the podcast? It's like, well, but I mean, so again, we're never going to make a living from it ever. We don't want to even close, but you know, a little bit helps. Anyway, enough about the money. But do go check out the two websites. The two Etsy pages, which is again Star of the Sea and Adeline Rose Prince. Not Prince like princess, Prince as in she prints stuff. I hope that makes sense. I know people are kind of wondering about that. Adeline Rose Prince.
Let me throw one more question up here real quick. This is maybe somebody. Do you actually believe in a third secret of Fatima? Yes, very, very much so. And is the one that was released in the year 2000 the third secret? No. And it could have possibly been part of a third secret. It was a vision. It wasn't really a third secret. I'll give you here's my speculation. This is kind of years and years of doing some study on this and looking at a lot of different, opinions on it. It's relatively mainstream, but basically my thought on the third secret was that it was a warning given by our Blessed Mother specifically to Pope John the 23rd, telling him, don't call the Second Vatican Council, right? Yeah. It was supposed to be read on her death or January 1st, 1960, whichever came later. Perfect timing because he was in 1958. He could have not called the council. And I believe that there was an or else probably built in there. And the or else is probably basically what we are living through today, which is you'll have basically your whole church will fall into apostasy. That's what I think the third secret was.
So my question would be is, do we ever know what the third secret actually is?
No. I don't think so.
Well, obviously when we die.
Yeah, right. But I mean, you think so? I mean, is there a document? I mean, hopefully, of course, we all believe there will be a pope or the end of the world. So there will be another true pope. So let's say we get a true pope in 50 years, however it happens. And then they go in the Vatican. Maybe there are still documents in the Vatican. It would make sense. I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I've wondered that though too. I mean, would these truly evil men keep these documents? It's like the Epstein files.
Epstein's file. I mean,
are they really? It's like there's millions of documents. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, really? But we'll get into the politics here in a minute. Sorry for everyone on the Catholic Family Podcast. We are going to talk about Trump. So you ladies out there, you may have to turn it off once we're done here. But no, it's an interesting question. I know there was a priest I talked to about it, and he's like, it's an interesting thing, and it doesn't matter. The time has definitely passed. The third secret, as long as you understand that I think for sure what they told us was a third secret wasn't, and that they hid it from us, and that they probably murdered Sister Lucy, or kicked her away. They definitely replaced her. If you understand those things, then you understand, or you're just thinking why? Okay, wait, what? They kidnapped Sister Lucy. Go look into Sister Lucy Truth, guys. It's amazing. It absolutely proves that she was replaced.
Yeah,
undeniably.
No question about it. No question.
And then that should make you think, wait,
why?
The church, the quote unquote church, got rid of the real Sister Lucy who actually saw Our Lady at Fatima. That will make you question things about the Novus Ordo Church.
Right.
But no, I guess any more questions? Do we want to keep going with the new Pope topic, or should we move on to
Trump? And maybe circle back around. There's so much more to say.
Because there's a lot more to say, but at the same time, we can only really repeat the same couple mantras because he's only been in 2 weeks. I mean, there's only so much damage you can do in 2 weeks.
Here's what we can do. So let's go around and let's say, what do you think is the most extreme thing he could do? So he's got 20 years.
Yeah.
Ish. Well, maybe. Who knows? Right, he could die next year. We don't know. But you think he'll be, okay, let's say 15. Let's say 15 years. What is the most extreme thing we think he could actually do? Dominic, you want to say
I think he's going to abolish the papacy.
Woo! That's extreme.
Well, that's what synodality. That's what I assume. That's what synodality is.
He's just going to be the Bishop of Rome.
So literally, the name Pope, the papacy, he'll literally say, "No,
step down.
I am just the top." Well, that's the heresy of collegiality, right? Which again, the
Hmm.
synodality, everyone thinks, "Oh, Francis started with this," and this is Louis Vecchio is the best at understanding this. This all comes from Vatican II. This all of Francis didn't come up with anything new.
Right,
Everything that he taught
He was an apostle
came from exactly.
Vatican
He
II.
was hardcore Vatican II. That's where it all comes from. So what everyone's going to understand, this is not just a Francis issue. This is the Novus Ordo Church, which was founded in 1962, whatever you want to say, at Vatican II. And that's the problem. That's the much bigger problem. So I could see it. And again, that issue goes back to the 1960s, to collegiality, which is one of the heresies of the Second Vatican Council, which means it could not be a true council.
I think the worst thing that will happen is we will muddle on as we have in confusion and conciliation of, I think we're going to have a new Benedict XVI who he'll push the boundaries and then he'll bring people in, then he'll push the boundaries, then he'll bring people in and try to keep everything in this gray blob where we get, where he doesn't cross the line where people can, come to our side and say, okay, enough is enough. We've had it. But also he's not going to, of course, repent and, backtrack. I think it's just going to be a continuation of the slow downward path into blurring the lines between Catholic and paganism until eventually there just is no distinction.
See, but real quick, though, to be specific to the question, what's the craziest thing you could see him doing that would align with that?
That would align with that? That specifically, to just blur the lines, to reinstate the Latin Mass, the traditional Latin Mass.
That's what I was
and at the same time bring in Pachamama 2.0. Try to appease both sides at once in error.
Yeah, I think he's not going to change much in terms of liturgy and stuff. Like he said, he's like, I'm going to keep doing just what Francis did. So I think he'll hold the line. I think he's going to let the bishops decide, which just takes all the pressure off the papacy. He's just going to be like, yeah, you know what? The bishops can choose in their own diocese, and so pretty much you're going to have some bishops get rid of it and some not. That would be what I would guess, which is kind of And that's what he has done in his career. He is just not very out in the open. No one really knew about him because he's pretty private. He's pretty smooth. He's not real. He's not boisterous like Francis. So he's
cog in the wheel.
He is going to be. But again, we've already seen him do some pretty crazy stuff. So that's to my point. I think he's gonna what do you say? Affirm women priests. I think he's going to allow women priests. And I think he could do it soon. I think this is something that he has been publicly for, at least, slightly for, and he has people who have said that he pushed for it when he was even in the seminary, a priest, bishop. So that's my guess. My guess is he's going to do that. And so that would be my question then, and we'll get to that in a second. But if he does that, let's say actually, I'll ask that question after Dad gets his, because I think that'll be better once we have everyone's.
Mine's basically yours taken up one more notch. I think he's going to try to, the craziest thing he can do, he's going to try to normalize homosexuality amongst his priests.
Well, isn't that kind of already?
It's kind of already there with James Martin, and he loves the guy. And if there's abuse scandals going on, he seems to be an expert at covering things up. And so I think he's going to just basically try to take that the next step and literally try to normalize it all, which is, the creepiest thing I can ever imagine. But I think there you have it.
Well, and remember what Francis did with Amoris Laetitia. He pretty much said that sin is subjective. That sin is it's kind of up to somebody. It's up to maybe some occasions sin is okay. That's really what, again, there's a great podcast that I did with Louis Vecchio about Amoris Laetitia, because it's not just about the divorce and remarriage. It is about that idea that not all sin is like sin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sin is not sinful. It's like sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's bad. It's like sin is sin. Sin is given to us by God.
Yeah. What is sin? But that's part of the Vatican II teachings is the relativism that truth can change.
Right. Well, and that also walking that fine line, because circumstances do change, customs and norms change,
right?
And like what we see, perception of sin does change. Not saying the sin itself changes and ceases to become a sin at any point. But say, for a good example, swear words. they change with time.
Right.
And it is their perception that causes the sin.
Scandal.
That causes the scandal. And so
Modesty
it's
is another one.
It is drawing in things like that will that they can use things like that to bring to bring that question in, to bring that problem to a forefront.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Before we move on, I want to take on this question or actually the point. This is like our fifth. We're going to let Eric be our fifth member here, and he's saying the creepiest thing, bringing the religious one world government, and that's an excellent observation.
Yeah,
and the way I watched something the other night, and it was kind of how would this actually all roll out if it did, and I think that what his role in the whole thing would basically be, number one, to get all of these different faiths together. Against the Jews, against the Muslims, and they're basically all more or less friendly with each other and talking well. And then along comes the Antichrist, and who knows if he's going to be a holographic projection, who knows what exactly he's going to be. But he basically comes to the rest and says, no Jesus, no Muhammad, no, Krishna, none of this other stuff, but I'm your God now. And I think that Leo, I would guess, would probably just fall right in line with that.
Well, that brings another. I think I had mentioned this to you a couple days ago about the conspiracy of Trump and Prevost being kind of hand in hand. As an first American Pope, America right now is way in the forefront of being the world order.
Yeah,
and
sure.
How do you create the one world order? Well, you do it through a temporal means, and you do it through a spiritual means. So it might have been, there's the whole thing with Trump went to the Vatican right after that whole, right after Francis died.
Yeah.
And maybe he did some shady stuff there. Maybe he said, hey, look,
JD
Vance is the one that killed him, Barry. But maybe he went there and said, hey, I've got this on you. I've got all of the Vatican's financial debauchery that's been going on. We will shut you down, or you put my guy in, and we're going to work towards one world government.
Yeah,
and that's totally
but that's
far out there.
Also kind of contrary to everything that Trump has been doing since the beginning.
A little
of his
bit,
and that's the black pillar theory that I just don't. The whole thing that it's all being orchestrated and someone's pulling the strings for every decision made in the world. I'm sorry,
I think it's a lot more chaotic than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things don't work that way. Evil
right.
does not work in unison.
Yeah,
Even the devil directs things, but people are too selfish. They're too. Who's just going to go to the one world leader, whoever it is, unless it is the actual Antichrist, which then I believe because he's going to work miracles and stuff. But or not. You know what I mean?
Call down fire.
Fake miracles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's going to be whatever you want to call it. But anyway, you're not going to have Trump. Let's say Trump is being led by the Rothschilds or whatever. It doesn't work that easily. You can't just you're not having one guy's like, oh, now you will be president and you will be pope.
Okay, but then how did the world get to the point where Vatican II was a thing?
Yeah,
it had to have been
communist
concerted
infiltration.
infiltration.
Yeah.
Well, and that had a concerted effort to bring down the church.
Well, and
that
general corruption starting in the 1500s with Martin Luther.
It's like the people that say, well, I mean, the CIA killed JFK, but they don't do that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I think there's always been bad people that have been in charge of the world that are directly under Satan's thumb.
But I think it's bad people offsetting other bad people.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a constant struggle for the top. That I think you don't have just this one cabal that orders everything, because everyone in that cabal is going to want to be the top.
Well, look at Joe Biden and Kamala, and we're going to get into that in a bit. Probably we're talking a little bit about politics, but the guy was just admitted to have cancer. He had cancer. He was dying as president. Yeah, that's factual. Like I've heard doctors talk about this.
Vice president,
probably. So he was definitely dying, and so he still was president as a lunatic. It was allowed to happen, but you could tell at the end of his term, it was like his agenda and Kamala's agenda and Nancy Pelosi's agenda. There was no fraction. That was not. You cannot tell me that was orchestrated because Trump was the ultimate goal to be the leader of the. Come on,
and that's also.
Well, and I know that one of the big black-pilled theories out there has if you got your hierarchy, you get the Rothschilds or whoever's Pace or whoever's up above them, and then you got the Jews and you got Trump, right? I tend to think it's more Jews Trump, and they're kind of at the same level, and Trump's actually on the verge of taking them out. I mean, he's taking out their media, the mainstream, the Operation Mockingbird. He's decimated Hollywood, or our culture has decimated Hollywood. He's kind of cut ties with Netanyahu, and he's really making headway in terms of crashing. He's crashing the economy, and I think it's on purpose. And he's crashing the economy because he wants to get us away from the Federal Reserve, which is the Jews' way of controlling us as debt slaves. So that Biggie, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Where's the tinfoil hat? But
I like the optimism.
I agree.
So before we get to Trump, I do want to ask one more question because I think this is really pertinent. So we talked about all of the things we think could happen. Which one do we think could actually happen to make your trad Inc. and semi-trad say, okay, no, that's not the Catholic Church? Is there any?
No.
And I mean, I'm not talking about your random John Doe out there who is a member of SSSP. I mean trad Inc. People making money from this. Is there anything that's going to make them say, okay, women priests? That's like instituted by Christ. I mean, there's so many of these things. Like, how?
But that's not what.
It's just unbelievable.
Well, there's nothing that this trading they can't explain away. They can't. There's nothing, unless
feed.
Oh,
there's our camera.
Well, let's see. Is this you're showing this camera still up?
Yours is up.
Okay.
Mine shows this thing up.
Okay.
Okay. There we go. We froze for a minute.
Okay.
I'll tell you the one thing that I think could actually turn Trad Inc. And it's not doctrinal because they're beyond hope when it comes to doctrine. They don't understand doctrine. They just don't get it. There's nothing doctrinally they can do to make them see heresy, apostasy, anything else. However, if we have a big revelation on the Epstein files or the Diddy files, and it gets deeply into Chicago priests and whatnot, and it's shown that Cardinal Prevost was covering it all up, and he's one of the perpetrators of all this thing. Now you say, well, maybe that's why Trump wanted him in, because he wants to take down the corrupt Vatican organization. Who knows? But I think that's the one thing for him to get caught up in the Diddy Epstein stuff that would turn the semi-trads.
You'd have a blacklist over. It would hurt them financially, which I think is kind of the only thing that they kind of work off of is fame and financials.
Yeah.
That if you put this just black spot on the papacy or their supposed papacy, if they started losing viewers, they would change their tune.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy makes people see reason quickly.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. It's going to be a wild few years, I think, and I think we again that is kind of a segue if we want to go into politics, because I think it's a strange time where we see a lot of paradigm shifts. I mean, you see, Trump obviously being a change, but I think you see a lot of change with AI. You see a change with Europe moving back to slowly to conservatism, very slowly, I admit, but they are moving, and I think that Gen Z, especially, they're either insane or they're awesome. Like they're a really strange generation.
Yeah.
They're not the baby boomers who are just like this. We don't care. Just let us. They're the Wall-E people, right? Let us just sit and be fat.
Yeah.
We don't care about anything. I'm sorry, to the boomers out there.
Yeah.
The boomers.
The boomers.
Boomers.
The boomers. Then the Gen X had some positives, but they also they're the ones who just cared especially about fame and fortune and
we're
achieving their
Gen X. We're the quiet but deadly generation.
Didn't
Don't mess with
there,
us. But we also have not really contributed. You look at and we'll get into some of Trump's people, but the Gen X list of heroes or big political is not very impressive. It's like Pam Bondi, it's Kash Patel, it's Dan Bongino, it's Trump's a boomer, and probably will skip over Gen X with the next really good president. JD Vance, I think JD Vance is a millennial. I think. Yeah, I know Vivek is definitely a millennial.
Right? Is JD Vance? Oh, he's in his 40s.
Early 41, 42. Yeah. So nearly a millennial.
Yeah, he may be on the cusp. Yeah,
but that is, and I think that's what's going to be really interesting to see is how culture is shifting. And I've said this over and over, and I really believe the current agendas, the transgenderism, the gay stuff, I actually think it's going to just go away. I think it's going to, maybe it's going to be a generation, but it's just going to be like, people are going to look back 10 years from now and be like, what
were we talking about? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like bell-bottom jeans.
Right.
I mean, it's just
It's going to be seen as just the hippie movement.
Well, and they
gone and out of
they don't reproduce. They literally don't reproduce. They don't have babies, so they try to
corrupt.
Do it in the school.
They go
right, so they do in the
corrupt,
schools. But I do think that that's changing because I think people, especially during COVID, saw, hey, I don't want lunatics can. Be religious. I think it's going to come down to Islam and that's the old, that's really the oldest one in modern history, and I think that's what's going to come down to.
We're fighting more about what is right and wrong, and not about we're fighting about which right and which wrong, instead of we are fighting to literally preserve the natural order and continue our species. Because that's what we were fighting against. We are fighting against mental disorders being forced upon us as normality. Transgenderism, these things, they are, I'd much be rather fighting against, Islam and, fighting the ideologies of Judaism and Hinduism than fighting against the natural order. People who are they are beyond reason. They are beyond hope.
And that's where I think, even though with Trump and Trump's got it, and we'll get into his flaws. I consider I look at it like a baseball season, and we're into May now. Let's say we're 50 games into the season. Trump to me is like 30-20, right? I mean, he's got more wins and he's got losses, but he's got not only some losses, he's got some ugly losses out there. But I do think that one of the most important things that happened when we went from Biden to Trump is what literally changed the narrative. It changed the Overton window. So we are not anymore discussing transgender and all the stupidity of the left. Now we're talking we're talking Doge. We're talking no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I mean, at least we're talking about more wholesome subjects. And I think we're moving in the right direction that way. We've not made a huge shift, I don't think, morally as a country, but I think we are moving in the right direction.
Well, the areas of debate, we're off the back foot now. We can start actually trying to fight for good instead of fighting to preserve the little good we have left. We can try to increase the good instead of protect, our dwindling supply of, graces that are keeping this world from fire.
We're seeing that in our own churches, that good grief, there's a lot of growth.
Oh my goodness. Grief. Yeah.
And it's like there was period of time, especially like out in Omaha, where the parish was kind of having some problems. There were some parishioners or just kind of problems. Stuff was just a little bit stagnant. There was basically no parish life. You had a kind of not a bad batch of seminarians, but kind of a dry spell in the seminary and the convent. And as of the last about 10 years, things are booming. Things are absolutely on fire in a good way.
Right. And we're getting 4 new priests every year, or for the last couple of years. I think we got 4 more coming next year if all goes well. And then I think we've got 18. We still have 18 secular seminarians.
We're gonna have at least 4 more at least as of now.
Yeah. Of your religious.
Of the secular.
Secular. Okay.
Secular.
So
and 1 or 2 more religious that I can think of now who aren't confirmed yet.
Okay, 4. So
call it
6 4 or 5
seminarians. That's
yeah. So I mean that's just we're kind of off the charts. And the beautiful thing is that I love the way the bishop does this. He takes the young priests and he puts them out. Usually pairs them up, but then once he pairs them up, it allows some priests to go off kind of more on his own. An experienced priest go off on his own, and so you get situations like Father Geckel. I'm not sure if you're still out there, Father Geckel, but he got to move down to Arkansas into the middle of Protestant country of all things, and he's flourishing. He's booming down there.
Yeah, and again, I guess that's I think it's cultural. I see people saying that they see a lot of children still, being transgenderized and whatnot. And I do think, again, there are the extremes that this generation just doesn't go. It doesn't go in the middle. It is you're nuts or you're conservative. It's the same in Europe. I mean, you just have people. The younger generations were voting in Germany. At least they were voting either AfD, which is far right, what they say, or they're voting like the Green Party, which is far left. So, and again, the problem in Germany is the boomers who just vote for the same party over and over and over. They voted for the same party their whole lives. They won't vote for anyone else because they're just not very educated. They don't care. And they just want to be comfortable and safe, and they don't care about the future at all. I know we don't have to get too much into that. And I just think it's different. It's changing.
That dichotomy, though, I know Tim Pool talks about this a bit. It's like, okay, whenever you have a society that is so just, left and right in this scenario, or right and wrong, however you want to put it, there has to be something to get a comeuppance, and that never comes without bloodshed. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be a civil war when things get so black and white.
I could see that, but also I just don't think that the modern world has the spine to fight each other.
Well, but here's the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, you got Team Red and you got Team Blue, and they march in line and they shoot at each other. No, that's absolutely not going to happen. However, taking my key and find somebody with a Tesla and key in the Tesla, that's good. That's the form that warfare is taking.
Warrior.
But even that trend died down because people, oh no, we'll get thrown in jail for 60 days now. It's like, okay, we better not key any more Teslas.
Well,
that whole phenomena is kind of died down.
A lot of it is like with race and stuff, right? Because I've seen, what happens. You see this a lot on social media. So the whole Carmelo Anthony thing, where the guy supposedly stabbed a white guy because the white guy supposedly said that he couldn't sit in his seat and whatever. Honestly, in the end, I don't know. It should be put in front of a court. I wasn't there. I don't know all the story. The dude certainly shouldn't have got $500,000 on GoFundMe. That's ridiculous. But you can see both sides pushing racism. Like both sides. The conservatives also getting like, how can this happen to the black? Honestly, it's just a crime. It's a crime.
Yeah.
Shut up. Let it work through the process. What do you know about it? You don't know anything about it, and the conservatives went crazy, and it just shows you it's this push for. And I think that's the war. It's a cultural war of we want you to hate each other, blacks and whites, Catholics and Protestants, Jews. We want you all to hate each other so that you fight and you don't understand what's going on. I think that is much more of the actual civil war. Because again, I think you guys are right. Who's going to pick up a gun and start? These guys are so mamby-pamby. They can barely pick up a gun. They can pick up their Starbucks, latte.
The worst thing they can do is, hurl insults at you and call you Nazi and fascist. That happened to me as I was driving into work a couple months ago. Shame me in the car again.
I'd switch the camera.
Like, how dare you? And then she drives off yelling the whole way. And I look over and there's another lady sitting next to me, and she shrugs and I shrug. I start laughing. It's like, well, I guess I know I'm doing something right. It's like a ticking off the right people, I guess, or something. But but that's that's the usually where it starts and ends is hurling verbal abuse. But
I think what you're seeing though is that most of this did not exist before Obama. It was Obama that really gave us because I remember I grew up in a very racially diverse part of Southern California, and there had actually been race riots at my high school several years before I got there. But blacks and whites, we played baseball together. We sat in classes together. There was no racial disharmony at all. I had the blacks and whites had nothing against each other, and this whole thing blew up with Obama. And I think we're still kind of living off the fumes of it. But I think part of it is now your conservatives, your whites are like, we're sick of it. We're sick of looking at things through the lens of race. Let's go back to the way we were before Obama. If you commit a crime, I don't care if you're black or white. You committed a crime.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you see it right now in women's basketball. They're really pushing the whole Caitlin Clark, whatever the other girl's name is. And it's like, I've seen some really funny comments. It's like, if you're comparing what they say, like football wise, if it's like Peyton Manning versus Colin Kaepernick, whatever. It's like a total nobody versus the sport. Like Caitlin Clark right now is the sport. We don't need to go into women's basketball, but they're changing. They're turning this into a whole thing. It's about race. It's about trying to make that a problem. You saw Ryan Clark, this sports analyst, giving Robert Griffin III a hard time because Robert Griffin's wife is white. So he's like, you can't. Yeah, he literally said Robert Griffin couldn't comment on racism because his wife is white. I'm not kidding. Robert Griffin, a black man, has a white wife. This other black guy says, hey, you can't even comment on it. I mean, but I think that is an actual purposeful shift to try to make us fight and hate each other. And I think that's, again, like Dad talked about when we talked about faith and the Pope. I mean, we have to make sure that doesn't become us. Don't share these things. I mean, stay charitable and try to really, before you share, and speaking for myself, really think before you, especially online, really consider what is the point, does this post even exist? And share it or read it.
So much, I mean, each side, and you'd form your own opinions. You had people who were actually intelligent and actually. Now you have everyone can argue about everything, and most everyone is intelligent. Not get up on any kind of moral high horse, but the majority of the people don't usually know in any kind of depth what they are talking about, and because of that, they're just going to attack the person. They're going to go and add something said really fast, and then you just degenerate into what slurs you can call someone in the quickest time possible. And nothing at all is gained by either side, because usually neither side knows what the heck they're even trying to say in the first place.
We're having connection issues. Whenever you're talking, William.
That's not like
literally. That's whenever you're talking.
That's weird.
Man.
Well, we haven't changed any of our connections.
No.
Dominic, Dominic, you could probably even just leave. Maybe that help. All right, but then I guess you won't see the comments anymore. Sorry, guys. Yeah. We're working on it.
It's always
our top tech team is working on it.
Here. One of these days we'll have a professional setup, but
it's not this
day. We're not there.
That is not this day.
This day we smoke.
This day. That's why we'll smoke a Terry Bomber. This is from Omar. Omar, if you're watching,
thank you, Omar.
Maybe
you're a mensch. We appreciate you.
Good to smoke if I can't even open the packaging.
Yeah, child.
It's a
but Dad, let's get into Trump. So
I want to the main topic of this whole thing is the honeymoon stage, and that being over.
Right.
And with Leo or Pope Bob, it's like, oh my goodness, what did I marry?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
What do you think of it? What is Trump? What is his 30 days in?
30 days in. I mean, he's got his flaws. So I mean, the first thing you have to look at is look at who he has surrounded himself with. And we had a discussion about this the other day. That I think he's made some great choices and he's made some bad choices in terms. And I think a lot of them has surprised me. So one of the best choices he made in terms of his cabinet was Marco Rubio. Yeah. And everybody thought Marco Rubio was this terrible choice, but I mean, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, has been right on. And Scott Bessent, who I absolutely deplore the guy's lifestyle. He's kind of this open homosexual, but he's been, as Secretary of Treasury, he's been really good. And so he went and got some people that were kind of insiders. And then oh my stars, a lot of the rest of them were pretty faces. Okay, they were media people, literal media people. So you're talking, Christy, Dan Bongino, the Secretary of Defense,
Pete
Hegseth, and these were basically. So I think his strategy was, we're going to go after the media. We're going to flip the media narrative. I'm not too concerned about these people's ability to do the job. I just need them to show well on TV, right? Yeah. And he did it. And I think he ended up surrounding himself with a certain amount of incompetence, And I don't think Pam Bondi so far does not seem to be up to the job. Kash Patel doesn't seem to be. Pete Hegseth has done okay, I think.
Well, I think part of it is, he also surrounded himself this time around, unlike last time, with people that liked him.
Yeah, right. I liked him.
Right. Seriously, I mean, Trump.
Say something nice to me.
Say what you will about
Yeah.
Trump. He is at heart, I think, a narcissist and an egotistical, maybe not a maniac, but that's why he's gotten so far in his career and why I think he makes for a pretty good president for the most part. But I think the fact that people like him is a big deal to him.
Yeah, and also I do wonder how much of this, because I mean, in Trump's first term and Biden's term, who could even name three different cabinet members?
Right.
I think the microscope is so focused right now that in Trump's first term, who was paying attention? You know, they could have done good or bad. You know, it was that shouldn't have done that. But you know, for the most part, I mean, I was like, these are all, you know, because they're such big names, kind of in their own right. I think there's a lot more attention being given to everything that they do.
Right.
And so they're coming under the microscope a lot more.
But even so, I mean, we talked about this last night. That whole mistake they did with the FBI, they've had a couple now. I mean, Bongino and Patel coming out and just like, yep, nope, Epstein killed himself, and it was, you know, and the guy who shot Trump did it by himself. We're sure of it. And Pam Bondi come out and say, we're going to give you the Epstein files, and then they didn't. Yeah. These are stupid mistakes. I mean, like really dumb, like absolutely unforced. Literally, just say we will talk to you guys in a year.
Yeah.
And people would have been upset with it, but they would
pull a Jean Karine Jean-Pierre, we'll circle around. Or I refer you to the White House security.
Circle back Psaki,
Jen Psaki,
But here's a story I think that kind of shows you what Trump is up against here, and why I think we got to still, even though I would say, like I said, he's the baseball team is 30-20. He maybe, you know, got a little bit of a first place type of lead. He's having a good season, not a great season so far. He has some spectacular losses. But okay, so he comes out a week or two ago, I think it was about a week ago, and he just went after Big Pharma. Okay, and he basically tried to destroy Big Pharma. He said that Big Pharma they're going to charge Americans a rate for all of their prescription medicine that matches the lowest rate that any other country pays. Okay. And 75% of Big Pharma's money comes from America. Basically what he was saying is going to put them under. And he did an executive order and he basically made it official. This is going to be the law. Okay. Big Pharma just ignored him. Okay. Because Trump does not have the authority to do that. It's got to go through Congress. Guess who owns Congress? Big Pharma owns Congress. So he's not going to get anything pushed through Congress. And even if he does get pushed through Congress, what's going to happen? They're going to take it to court. And they're going to find these same judges who have been trying to get these, you know, get the guy, I forget the
Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Diego Garcia guy.
Yeah.
And all these guys back from overseas, from El Salvador, whatever it is. And so he's got such a hard road to get big because nobody else has the will to take it on. Trump is still completely surrounded by swamp. He's got his own people into good positions, some of them competent, some of them not. But that, you know, do you think that Congress, I mean, John Thune's been okay, but do you really think Chuck Schumer is any less swampy than he was? Or, AOC or any of these guys?
But perhaps the play is, you know, to get the people on board is to, sign an executive order, make it a big public thing. You know, we want cheaper, medicines, cheaper drugs for the American people, to cut into Big Pharma. And then make it a big stink when Congress refuses to pass that legislation.
Oh, sure. That's going to happen with the one big beautiful bill or whatever they call that. It passed the House, which is
it passed the Senate 100-0.
I'm not sure exactly how they did this. I think they split off no tax on tips.
Oh, as a separate,
and it went through the Senate 100-0.
Okay.
But the big beautiful bill, which maybe we'll get into this or maybe not if we want to get more deeply into economics as part of destroying America, this big beautiful bill. But that went through Congress and it made it by one vote. Okay, now think about this. Okay, all it takes is the Republicans have, what is it, a 3-seat majority or something like that.
Four-seat
A four-seat majority, which means that a bill like the Big Four beautiful bill either has to get 100%, because the Democrats aren't going to help you on it. So they got to get 100% Republican support. All it takes is 5 congressmen to torpedo it. So your 5 most liberal congressmen have all the power.
Yeah.
So Trump can only, if he's going to put any bill through that's going to pass, it's got to pass through the 5 most liberal Republicans in Congress. Okay, so he's still, there's a lot that he's done that I don't like. IVF, terrible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think he's, we still have to give him time.
Well, yeah, we have such incredibly high expectations, and it's not even been half a year yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And we say, why isn't the world back to being great? Why isn't America suddenly great again? Why are all these issues not already fixed?
You're not appreciating how bad it is.
It took
Right.
decades, if not half a century or more, to get this way.
Mhm.
It's going to take a lot more than
you're
one
not-
or even 2 administrations.
But
to fix.
part of it is the lethargy of the people. I mean, Dad's totally right about this. Look what happened to the banking systems back in 2008, right? They crashed because the bankers were totally corrupt, and the watchdogs. Who paid the watchdogs? The banks.
Yeah.
This is, what? And this will only change, honestly. And I'm not saying I want this. It will only change with revolution.
Yeah.
Until the bankers get strung up by their shoestraps, they're going to keep doing it.
And
same with pharmaceuticals in Congress.
But the white hat argument is that Trump is systematically taking down that system.
Right.
And basically the stock market crash that's coming is going to be terrible for people with 401ks. Everyone else is going to see their cost of milk go down. 50 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
So it's like, your common working man is like, this is the greatest thing ever. But the Dow or the S&P is going to be sitting at, 200 points.
Yeah. And guys, I pay fairly close attention to the markets here. And I've had a couple times in the last few weeks where I was ready. I was probably an hour away from coming online, Cat's Family Podcast and Traditionalist, with an urgent red alert, get ready for collapse. Because I think we've been relatively close to it now. It didn't
bond market.
Yeah. In the United States yesterday, and then actually it was Japan last night, they had a bond issuance, and nobody bought the bonds. And it doesn't sound like a big deal. And I don't really want to go through the explanation of why, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal for us. It's a big deal for Japan. It's a big deal for the entire world. But you're having the same problem with the United States bond market. Nobody's buying our bonds. And so what's happening instead is that the Federal Reserve is going to have no choice. They're going to have to buy back their own bonds, which I don't totally understand it. It's hyperinflationary, right? It's going to, because they're printing money, it's going to be hyperinflationary. So I think we've got another massive round of inflation. It could be a stock market crash and inflation, one after the other, or both at the same time. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out. I think we've got some rough days ahead.
Yeah, we'll have to do.
Well, Dad just said something pessimistic. Someone mark that down.
Yeah, that's right. Mark it down.
No, we'll have to do an in-depth podcast one of these days on market action in the last 6 months, because there's some really interesting stuff that's been going down.
Count me out on that one. I'll talk Byzantine history all day, but
not
markets.
Nah, we'll see if we can get Travis Prosinto.
True.
Yeah, he's really good on that stuff.
Well, and I see Communist has a couple. I think Communist looks like a black pillar, which I just sorry, Communist. I have a hard time getting into this, but look, I do think, and I talked to Eric about this. I think on the podcast, but maybe not. But we talked about how the idea of our form of government is kind of an illusion. I think that is true. Like, the idea of a democratic republic or whatever we think we have.
We never really ran anything.
Not really. Well, in the example of how pharmaceutical companies run Congress, that can't work. Like you can't have that. You have to have a government that actually wants to protect the people. Actually does. And that's the whole point. They said, the founders said, and again, I know they had problems, but they were really smart about some things. They said this system can only work with Christian people.
Right.
Why? Because Christian people want to actually do good. They want to do good things for the people. The people running the country are bad people. They hate us. Even the Republicans, probably 80% of them, could not care less about us. They can't. Well, now, I do think that's the difference with Trump. I think I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I think Trump actually does love us. He loves America.
If
and
only,
that's a
if
good
only
thing.
to get us to love him.
Maybe.
Well,
But
maybe.
still,
Maybe.
still,
Okay,
can't
but
argue-
yeah, that's
can't
fine.
argue the
I mean,
That's a
bring
net
that on.
positive. It's still a net
It's
positive.
imperfect maybe,
Yeah.
but to Commodus's point, I do get the fact that we are, as a nation, Christ is not the king. Christ is not the king of this nation. Therefore, our nation is doomed to fail. However slowly it does. That is the way of things. The only kingdom that has lasted for, as long as it has is the Catholic Church, because it has Christ as its founding figure. Every other nation, the Roman Republic lasted so long because it changed several times, and they had massive upheavals and revolutions, and they changed everything but the name Roman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And America, it's going to be maybe the same way. Sooner or later, it's going to fall. But that doesn't mean we can't have a renaissance. That doesn't mean it's ever too late.
Well, and if we're looking at the world, and the world is a cesspool, okay, and it is, it's pretty much always has been. I think if you believe that America, you can't vote for Trump, chances are fairly good there is not one president in the history of America who would have been up to your standards. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just grant that the world, the world, the America, the world, whatever is a cesspool. Okay. It doesn't behoove us to go out and stand above it and point down and say, you're a cesspool. Okay. Yeah. God sent us here. He put us in here, Valley of Tears, to get into the middle of it and make it a better place.
In our last true pope, Pius XII, told us we have to be active. Catholic men especially need to be active in society and in politics. Now, what do you think? And really, communists, I sincerely ask you this. And please answer in the comment section. If we had a true pope right now, like a real pope, do you honestly think he would say, ladies and gentlemen, of the Catholic Church, we are in the great apostasy. Just buckle down, cry a little, don't do anything, stay at home, whine on social media, and let's just leave it be. Let's leave it be. The world is going to hell. We're just going to leave it. Do you really think a pope would say that? Do you tell me?
Well,
would a pope say that? A pope would say, "Go and fight it.
And
be the light on the mountaintop."
There'd be the answer that's like, okay, no, just pray about it. Just pray.
Yeah,
about it. Just
of
pray.
course that's
yes, that is the correct answer.
Yes.
But prayer without action,
prayer without works is dead. Yeah,
prayer without works is dead.
Well, and that's also, I think Saint Augustine said this. It might be from some other great mind of the church. Is pray as if everything depends on God. Work as if everything depends on you. Right. God gave us intellect and wisdom in order to fix the problems of the world, not to just condemn others for not fixing it for us.
Right. And I think there is one point, and this again to Thomas's point, that our Lord did say, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, okay, new mass. I don't think there's possibly a better description than the new mass. What are we to do? We're to flee. We flee. We leave the church. Okay. So in one sense, it was not on us to stand in the abomination of stand in the holy place and fight the abomination of desolation. That one we were supposed to flee. Okay. So I mean, there is some merit to what you're saying here, obviously, but I think at the same time, we have, just for our own souls, for the souls of our family or whatnot, we do need to fight this, because I mean, we're the church militant, and we're here to fight.
And compare it, can compare it to the Arian heresy. They had the churches, they had most everything. They had, I don't think they ever outright had the papacy, but back then the papacy was not what it is today. It did not have the
structure
reach.
Was not quite
the structure was not there that it is now. And so you had you had St. Athanasius. He fled, and then he fought his way back in. He fought and died. Many died until we reclaimed our churches, until we reclaimed our faith, and we reclaimed our territory from the Arians. I mean, it was a slow, laborious process, and many people didn't live to see that. Well, but you still continued the fight.
Also came out of that. That's something that I like. So that's pretty good. The rage bait the haters on X.
Yeah. We are so behind you there.
Social warrior. Yes. But I was just gonna kind of make the point that we tend to think, through the Vatican II era and how evil people kind of got, and the last several quote unquote popes, how terrible they were for the world and for people's souls. You also have on the opposite side of that the saints of our era.
Yeah,
we're living through amazing times and tumultuous times, but in these times you have some of the greatest saints of the church possibly
and we've walked, and
we have conversations with them.
Like, I don't want to call any out who are still alive, because I think they'd be completely embarrassed. So I'll leave some of the, and I think there are some that we know personally who are going to be 500 years from now great saints of the church. But I mean, you look at Archbishop Took, he's right at the top of my list. You look at Father Dennis Chicoine, who saved the CMRI. And there's just so many others. Father DePaul, right? Was one of the first ones. Yeah.
And Father Clement Kubish.
The one from Chicago. First one that the bishop went to. Who's the mystic? He was a mystic.
Yeah.
I can't think of it. I can picture him. I can't think of his name.
But
anyways, I think we are walking among some of the greatest saints that in the history of the church, and our saints had to do something that no other saint in the history of the church has had to do. They had to walk away from Rome. They had to walk away from the man who appeared to be the Pope. I mean, there's nothing you can have to do as a priest, as a bishop, harder than that.
Yeah, and I know people compare it to the Great Western Schism, but it's not the same.
It's not.
They
No, it
weren't
really
teaching
isn't.
heresy. It was
right.
It was confusion and a big mistake of the cardinals, but it was not a teaching of error by the man who called himself Pope. So it is, and you see, and it is an unfortunate thing, because I would add Archbishop Lefebvre to that list. And I think he is a very a man who is very
Father
McNamara. Okay, Father McNamara, and very someone who is, nowadays we look back and say, why did you not do this? Why did you do this? And in the end, again, like Dad said, look at the time he was living in. These were men he was probably good friends with, right? I mean, many of them. Actually, among these people, what was he supposed to do? And I think that we're fortunate enough now, Sophie, be careful with the cameras. My daughter runs behind the cameras. But I think that it's absolutely right. And I think even cooler than that, in my opinion, is where we are as a church. We're back in the catacombs in a lot of ways. Maybe we'll be even more so in the future if, let's say, especially if Trump is the Antichrist, like some people believe, then we're certainly going to be in trouble. But then isn't that, how cool is that to be
a good place to be?
And to be parents and to raise children and say, hey, these children could be the greatest saints of all time. They could be the ones who bring back the papacy, right? And I think that is a beautiful thought, where it's like, that could be what we give to the future is how we raise our children, how we act ourselves, our examples. And I know we talk about this on every podcast, but it's really true. So I guess Commodus, I'm sure you believe that too. I don't say
we're not hating on you, Commodus.
No.
I'm hating on you. I'm hating on you a little bit.
It does bring up a lot of good.
No, it's a good point. These are good points. Yeah.
But I think the big thing is not just to sit and mope and say it's all going to hell in the handbasket. So, it's just all bad. It's all planned. Why do you guys even talk about these things? That's where I just get like, ugh.
Well, I mean, you have to have hope, even in the darkest of times. That's when your hope should be the brightest.
Have you even read Lord of the Rings?
So seriously, yeah. I mean, I've had so many quotes, Lord of the Rings quotes running through my head. I've been wanting to say some of them, but I don't want to butcher it and do Tolkien wrong. But yeah, it's and saying, who is it? Thomas Paine. Times like these try men's souls. But I mean, it is the stone that comes out purified by this fire is going to be brighter than any seen, in past ages. Think just was it St. Catherine of Siena? It always bears, or St. Catherine of Siena, or St. Teresa of Avila, looking at the saints of the end times of the latter days. Is like, but Lord, they're so weak. I was like, yeah, but look what they had to endure.
Yeah.
It's never been so hard to simply stay in the state of grace, in the arms of the church. For one thing, because what is the church? The church isn't in Rome anymore. The church isn't Pope Leo XIV. That is not where the Catholic Church currently resides. And on top of all of that already, we have just, the fact that transgenderism and LGBTQ and homosexuality, that we discuss it, that we have to discuss getting rid of it. How is it, how inspiring is it that we can still come out of this, that we can still, persevere through this?
I mean, on a spiritual level, 100%. On a social level, I'm not sure if we've gotten there.
Oh,
I have always, I've always kind
fair.
of taken the black hat sort of path on that. That in order, much better. That in order for a civilization to come out of a moral depravity, you have to have a lead lag with the moral depravity gets bad, and then you have physical pain.
Right.
You have to feel the pain to get on your knees to get back up to being a morally okay.
Okay,
nation.
but I'll put one out there, and I think that this is really interesting. I agree with you totally. However, to what extent can we look at the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, and the fact that we're all fat, we're all like Wally, and I know I am, unfortunately. But I mean, we live so well. It is kind of a little bit unique to America. It's true.
I've gained a lot of weight since I've been here.
And
good cooking too. That's part of it.
Right. But we have lived so unhealthy. We are so physically, mentally, spiritually unhealthy. How much of that kind of takes the place of physical pain, or do we also need to feel actual deprivation, actual
corporal
empty
pain.
stomachs?
Yeah.
And I mean, to a degree,
And I don't know. I don't have an answer to
Is
it.
because the trials of our times are so different, perhaps the pain of our times will be different as well. Because I mean, it's not like in past centuries you get a famine and people go hungry and starve and then they beg God for forgiveness. I mean, that happens. That is happening. Look at Africa. I mean, look at all these places. There is tons of suffering, just not by us specifically here at this moment. I mean, maybe maybe the whole world needs to experience it. In which case, how can you do that without just having the end times where the whole world goes up in fire? Because I mean, that'll be global chastisement. But I mean, but we're already seeing a whole lot of natural disasters. I mean, there are tsunamis, earthquakes.
Our tornado right up on the hill, like
right over there.
Watch, like F4 just randomly walking by.
But it's there is plenty of suffering to be had. It's weird seeing it on such a global level where everyone can pay attention to things at the same time. It's not localized. Back in even in the time of World War II, that's the last time we had global suffering and retribution, and it seems we got worse from it. It seems like World War II, that punished us, but I think there was plenty, there were plenty of Christians in foxholes, but after that you saw just a fall off the cliff.
The
morally.
Great World War II generation spoiled the snot out of their children.
Yeah.
And I mean, you saw I Love Lucy, and it was all of a big deal how big a birthday party you could throw for the kids. You had actors and horses and all this kind of stuff. And then that generation turned into Woodstock very predictably. And we ended up in a huge amount of trouble. I mean, that was kind of our downfall, was after the World War II generation.
How they dealt with all the trauma they experienced, coming home.
That was a big part of it. Yeah, well, and I think America lost its soul in a way because they dropped the atomic bombs. They took atomic power. They really tried to abuse atomic power, which is that's another really interesting topic. The morality of that, and how if it hadn't been for leakers, America, we'd have a very different world. If it leaked to Russia,
Actually, I think it might not
There we go.
connect automatically.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. We popped out again.
Hey, I was going on a rant about World War II.
I mean, that, you know, it's
America
not the
lost
first
its
time. You've
soul.
heard it before.
I think
Go back and
Right,
listen to every one of my podcasts. You've
Yeah.
heard it. You've
Oh, I
heard
mean,
it.
how the world lost its soul to a degree. I mean, just thinking of how warfare is fought.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be. Yeah, or we should be back on now.
I think we're back on.
But how wars are fought now? You know, World War II was fought over the people. The war was fought. You know, the civilians were targets by all the powers, by the Axis and the Allies. You know, 40,000 pounds of bombs were dropped on Monte Cassino.
Yeah.
Which only made it a stronger
Yeah.
fortification for the Nazis.
By the Americans.
By the Americans, yeah, and at least 25,000 people killed in Dresden. I think something
How many in Tokyo?
over 100,000 killed in Tokyo, more than
That-
both
that's
atomic
a
bombs
bigger
combined.
deal.
It's a bigger
And it
deal,
was
yeah.
and it was
Much.
orchestrated to do that. It was orchestrated to kill as
Yeah.
many civilians as
Well,
possible.
the way they did it was
they
terrible.
made a circle
yeah.
of incendiary bombs around a mostly wooden city.
On a windy
So
day,
it created
So
literally
literally
a
created
firestorm where
and
you
you couldn't
either
get
you
out.
suffocated if you're inside the conflagration, or you just to those people it was the end times.
Yeah.
And coming out of that, how can you claim any kind of moral superiority?
Oh my goodness!
And
And
Yeah,
they
we
did. And
Yeah.
they did. And that was
Right.
the thing. And so America came out of that and pretty much said, okay, yeah, fortunately the atomic bomb, it leaked to other countries, but still they're like, we are the moral superior. We are the country that everyone should look to. And they did. And then you had Woodstock, you had Hollywood, you had all these things that
McDonald's.
came straight McDonald's. You had all these things that came from America that did. Even if you can say it started from the founding, I don't really buy that. I wish it was a Catholic constitution, of course. I don't think it goes back to the founding. I think it's much. I really believe it's World War II. I think it started before then. It's kind of like the church, right? The church was slowly gliding from the 1500s into what it became in the mid 1900s, and I think that's. I think it happened to America, and then boom, and like Vatican II, boom, done, end. And I think it happened close to each other, and I think that's why that's what we see. What we have today absolutely kicked off in the 1960s, and 40s, 50s, 60s.
But then the other side of it is like when we talk about this a lot, I'm probably repeating myself too, is that America's done some of these horrible things throughout the years and bad war wise, but guess where the Catholic Church is the strongest right now? Guess where the traditional movement is the strongest, where we have the most priests, the most bishops, the most churches, the most anything else is here in America. And so I think that our freedoms, I don't know if I can blame our freedoms for our bad leaders, but I think we just are a culture that has been prone to high highs and low lows.
Well, something about our religious freedom granted by the Constitution made us in a way kind of unshackled from the Vatican when it fell in a weird kind of way, because we weren't a Catholic country. Therefore, when Rome fell, the rest of the Catholic world fell with Rome. But America was never a Catholic country, even though it's always been a Catholic country.
Right.
It's never been a formally Catholic
Not
country.
formally, but the culture in America was always extremely friendly. Yeah, I mean, we take. Well, I mean, right. I mean, not the original Irish, right?
Yeah.
But you go up and down the Mississippi River, and you look at maybe not the founding of America, but this definitely the spread of America. Up and down the Mississippi River, you've got French Catholics who are there. They built churches. German Catholics, Spanish Catholics, Italian Catholics, and they're actually a town. I think it's in I want to say Wisconsin that is called 5 Points or something like that because you had 5 different cultures that were all there. They're all Catholic and all and then you had the West Coast where you had the missions, the Jesuit missions. You had Mount St. Michael's. I mean, you've got all these. There's always been a really kind of beautiful Catholic history to our country, even though it was kind of under the covers, kind of stealth. We've never really we had one Catholic president, that was John F. Kennedy, and he was a bad example, but he got shot.
We had one Catholic Pope. Oh, wait.
Wow,
He's not Catholic.
Right. No, it's a good point. And it's common. Again, it's been in end times for a long time. I hate to keep going back to this, but I mean, it works with the Trump thing. Look, you don't have to believe in Trump. I guess my point being, what's your point? So what are you going to do? I mean, are you just going to I don't agree with everything Trump says. I think None of us do. Dad maybe more than most. Dad's more optimistic.
But I've got my reservations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're kind of lined up. Like I think Dad's most optimistic, then maybe me, then maybe you guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of how it works. And I think that's okay. You can hate Trump. Like I have no. Like if you really think Trump is going to be the big leader, okay. Like I don't know, maybe. But I guess my point is like so. Do you think that what's the plan then? Are you just never going to be involved in politics? Are you not going to talk about it? Are you just going to whine about it? Are you going to go and run for politics? Are you going to try to fix it?
Or what I think is worse is you take a stance on something and you're so solid on that stance that you're blinded by any possible outcome that happens with this person. If Trump came out and, publicly asked for Our Lady's intercession or publicly asked for St. Michael's intercession or did something so crazy,
which he's done.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, he's still the worst. Nothing that he does is good.
Yeah.
It's like you got to take.
It's not even that. No, I've seen this. They'll even say, well, he just posted that to try to get the Catholics on his side to believe in it.
So what?
I mean, it's like, okay,
so what?
Sure, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, it could be. I don't know.
To win.
But it's a good thing to have St. Michael on Twitter with 10 million views. That's good.
Yeah.
That's objectively good.
Yeah, and also, I mean, just the thought that so it's been the end times for a long time. It's like what good do you get from thinking in those terms? Is the end of your times is almost certainly going to be the end before the end of the times. That's something I get from Father Bernard Utley. Has a really good sermon floating around here somewhere. I think on Traditional Catholic Sermons. But it's you can get in your doomsday bunker and get all these preparations and go and doomsday prophesy and say it's the end times. It's the end times. It's going to be the end of your time. Prepare for the end of your times. There's no reason you shouldn't go around trying to bring other people despair. You should be trying to bring other people hope. Prepare for the end of your times.
Yeah, I think Commodus, he's a savior soul. You should understand what. I'm
sorry. I can't take this type of person. I can't take it. We're talking about Trump. You said that we're being idiots for following. You didn't say that, but practically saying, "Oh, you guys are falling for Trump." Don't bring this back to the faith. That's not what we're talking about. You guys do this all the time. Just go and pray. We know that. You think we don't know it? We have a podcast called Catholic Family Podcast. We're trying to pray. Okay, we get it, man. Whoever you are, we get it. I'm not saying we always do it. I'm not saying we're saints, but dude, yeah. Oh, this is exactly what they do every time. Well, just go and save it. Of course, we want to save our souls. We're talking about Trump. We're talking about right now on the podcast about Trump.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. Don't back up on this.
Well, don't take the bait. You're taking the bait.
These black belt trolls.
Well, the thing is, and that's you can think negatively about Trump, but what's the purpose of just going around and spreading that? Be constructive, maybe. And I'm not saying you're not. It's just, well, you can, but I prefer to be more tactful. Just be hopeful. Try to be proactive instead of reactive. Don't, what's the purpose of trying to get other people to think negatively? What good comes from that? Just not only spiritually, but psychologically.
I know I've gotten this. I think I've gotten this from Father Geckel and in his show, and I know discussions we've had with him too. When there are wins, take the W. When there are losses, take the L. Okay, IVF are a big one for all of us. That's an L if you're Catholic.
Some of his views on Israel and Zionism, at least,
and abortion too.
Not necessarily the last month, being taken in that same conversation, but there's a lot of criticism that he's very Zionist. And
but here's
controlled by the Jews.
Okay, but what you have to, but you have to with Trump, you have to watch what he does and not what he says. Because let's assume for just a minute. I'm going to take my white pill standpoint on this and say that Trump is working to destroy Israel. He understands that the greatest threat to make America great again is Zionism, is the Jews, is the global bankers, is, whatever you want to call it, Hollywood, mainstream media, all of that. Okay. If he's out to destroy them, he's going to have to, no question about it, he's going to have to make a public profession of being as nice and as courteous and as obedient and as gentle and as soft towards Israel as he possibly can. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what's going on. It's just kind of if then. If he's actually trying to destroy him, he has got to make a show of being in their court.
And look at the hypothetical story, not the hypothetical story of David and Goliath, but look at the story of David and Goliath. David didn't get his own sword and say, hey, I'm going to fight you like a man, and we're going to, may the best man win, have strength. He used a slingshot. Mm-hmm. He took him out from a range. Goliath never stood a chance.
Right.
You can't fight. The fight isn't always the chivalrous, knight in shining armor. We will duel this out, and the loser has to forfeit. It's you can't play if you're going to win the game, you can't play their game.
Well, and with that analogy, how did he actually kill Goliath? Cut off his head
with his
own sword.
Yeah.
How do you do that with the Jews? You cut off their heads with their entire monetary system.
That might come back to bite us.
Oh yeah, sorry. Did you two take us down?
The power is still up. By the way, good to see you, Kimberly. Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you. You're a hopeful person, so I will comment very positively.
I like your points.
Well, I think it
good conversation.
It brings up good points of conversation. Because there's plenty to be said. Negatively about Trump, sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. To what point? Don't say it's the end times. Trump is bad.
See, but my point to that would be the is the people that are Trump worshippers. That is what you,
and that's bad.
Agreed. That's bad.
Totally.
That's why you have that argument of okay, look at this guy, he's bad. Might not be all bad, but it's kind of the exact opposite of the people that are like everything he does is good.
Totally.
Right. 100%. We're all on board. It's like no, this guy is not.
Well, just imagine.
Well, and I'll give you I'll give you real quick my black pill side of because Trump does concern me from the standpoint of all of this AI stuff. If he gives us power or energy, we may get free energy or whatever we end up with energy wise. And he goes with artificial general intelligence, which will be followed by artificial super intelligence. And that is extremely scary. I mean, that literally could be the end of mankind. And there's one of the black pillars that I know that will basically say that, Trump's going to wipe away this whole system. He's going to wipe away Nancy Pelosi and the Bidens and the Netanyahu and all the rest of them. And he's going to replace it with something worse. Okay. I can't totally disagree with that. I mean, I don't believe it necessarily, but I can't. You're wrong.
Well, and that's the thing is we can't know the future.
Right.
We can judge Trump by what he has done. We can applaud him and despise him for the things he's done. But to think that the future is not ours to know. So there's that's why the 5D chess, and it's all going to end up this way. Every time you come up with a solid conclusion of where everything's going, that's the first solid sign that it's not going to go that direction.
See, my opinion on the 5D chess is like, okay, no, the left is playing checkers. Trump's is playing shoots and ladders. He's just not. He's not playing the same game, and it's not 4D chess. I don't think. I think that whole Trump is a genius deal.
He's a genius
has a little bit of merit to it, but
I've got to see for me, I've got to see some action. Yes. I got to see butts in jail, and then I'll believe it. Yeah. Okay. Until then, now I understand the argument on the other side says don't put him in jail until you have a 100% airtight case against them because they will get the best lawyers and they'll get in front of the most corrupt judges and they'll all get off if you don't do it right. And so that's why I think there's, you've got to give it some time. However, there also reaches a point where you let the Epstein stuff, you let the Diddy stuff go too long and it gets stale and people just move on from
it. Turns into the JFK files.
JFK files, right, exactly.
They have too much time to think of their way out.
Yeah.
They have too much time to think of their defense and their loopholes.
So I think Trump's got a shelf life. I don't know if it's 2 years, maybe another year. I'm not sure. He's got to start throwing people in jail.
Yeah, I think before midterms.
Yeah, see, I honestly, this is my black pill. I think he doesn't care. I think Trump is much more like, hey, look, I'm going to fix the economy. I'm going to fix the borders, and then midterms will be fine. I just don't think like the cultural stuff. I just don't think he really cares. I think it's like the whole because I think that's why they messed up the whole Epstein files and stuff so much because I think Trump was just like you guys, it's not my thing. It's not my thing. Whatever, go do your thing. And again, the people he put in charge there are not that bright. Again, we talked about it last night. Kristi Noem is a very unintelligent person. I mean, sorry. Watch her talk. It's like, oh my goodness, she's in charge of what? National security?
Just think
she's not bright, and that's a bad thing. And again, it's because she has weaknesses.
We could have had Kamala Harris as the president.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So that's the white hat
yeah,
version.
like,
right. Yeah.
Higher conversation.
President, and that's just we
froze. I think I gotta get going here fairly soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're.
I think we're back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
no. There it is.
There we go.
I'll never play. We're kind of coming in and out, guys. So bear with us. So I think we're going to start wrapping up here. I don't ever plug my own sermons, but I do in the end is nigh in a little while. We just played that on Catholic Family Podcast. Right. I think a week or two ago. It was outstanding.
Yeah. Thank you, Father.
Yeah. But kind of circling back to our original, honeymoon phase. I feel like Trump is like, you're married for a little bit, and right now we're in the season of, okay, he's been working his 9-to-5 job, and things are just kind of slowing down a little bit. And there's a lot of us that are sitting here like, why aren't we still in honeymoon phase? Why aren't we still just going at this wild, fast pace? And that's not how it works.
Right. Marriages don't work that way.
Marriages don't work like that. You have ups and downs, but it's the steady, respect and
and we said that yesterday. That it's like, okay, I think Trump, honeymoon phase is over. You realize he's got really bad breath. He stinks. He's kind of annoying, but he loves me. And I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And again, communists, I can admit that. Maybe not. Maybe he hates us and is evil.
I don't know. He's a really good actor.
We don't know that is possible. But I think my personal opinion is he's really flawed. He does some things really bad. He puts some people in terrible positions. Mm-hmm. But I think he loves America, and that's better than the alternative. So it's like that's the hope. It's like you don't have to praise everything he does. If I run for president and I get in, can you imagine if I make a mistake, shouldn't you be the loudest one, right? Like your biggest fans should be your loudest critiques in a lot of ways, right? They should be the ones like, hey, bro, you can't do this. If it's JD Vance as a Catholic, if he's the next president, we should be absolutely the most vociferous when he makes a mistake.
Yeah.
That's true. So you should absolutely critique it. But again, look at the hopeful thing. He is doing some things that you can say, hey, at least, as Dad says, wait it out. It's exactly what happened to Trad Inc. They didn't wait. They didn't give it 2 days before they said, my full support is behind this man.
You're Bob from Boston.
Yes.
Right.
You're 2 days into your marriage, and oh shoot, he's an abusive drunk that actually likes me for my looks and doesn't love me.
Right.
Oh, done messed up.
Yeah. And I think that's in the end, there is hope with Trump. I think that's true. Maybe it's false hope. Could be, as William says, we don't know. We will see. We'll find out. With Bob, the Pope, there ain't no hope, guys.
Yeah.
None.
So there was a tiniest bit before, his stuff started coming out. It's like, okay, American guy from Boston, nobody really knows him. He looks nice.
He looks nice. He
comes out with
he looks humble. I mean, where Bergoglio and where Bergoglio was this total false, phony, fake, humble. I think he's legitimately, I think he may be evil. I think he's covering up who knows what, and he's sinister. But I do think he's got a certain humility, a certain bearing about him. I have just about this much hope that he could have a St. Paul moment at some point along the line. I don't think Bergoglio, Ratzinger, I don't think any of the rest of them, any of them were capable of that just because of where they came from. Maybe, I doubt it, but I don't know. So I mean, I was the same way. I had that much hope, but then
he still could. I mean, we should absolutely pray for him as a man and pray for a pope. That's something we should do absolutely every day. And let's especially pray for Commodus because he's super annoying. And
we're gonna have to have you on the show, Commodus.
No, we're good. We're good.
You can come on the traditional.
Yeah, there you go. Have fun.
We're on. See, that's
we were on the edge.
That is the name of the podcast.
I'm gonna push him off the edge. That's what I'm gonna do. Actually, since we're talking about the Traditionalists, we're gonna have a live stream tomorrow on only the Traditionalists. So again, if you're watching on Catholic Family Podcast, make sure you subscribe. We're gonna talk with Nicholas and Michael. So Nicholas from Canada, whose wife is Polish, and Michael from Poland. We're going to talk about the situation in Poland with their recent elections and kind of what's going on with politics there. I know nothing about it, and
that is a fascinating.
They were like,
couple
Kevin,
of
that's
guys.
why we want you. We want you there.
Are,
These guys are really interesting, and they disagree, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun episode. That'll be at 10 o'clock Central Time, or I think it was 10 o'clock. I will make a preview here after the show. 9 or 10 o'clock Central, I'll see. But again, make sure you subscribe to the Traditionalists because we really do. It got slow there for a while because I'm traveling and not organizing things as well. Did we freeze again?
No, we're good. It's just I see this comment from St. Anthony and just have to shake my head. It's like the one thing that Trad Inc. Is I don't know why I'm going in and out.
There you go.
Feel safe to take a strong stance as being anti-Sadie. That's
so
I call them. I call them gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of them over the course of the year. A lot of them have ended up losing their faith. A couple of them become atheists, but they stand at the castle gate and basically stop, and they're turned in, and they stop the people from leaving. They don't want them to find Mario Dirksen. They don't want them to find Catholic Family Podcast and WM Review and places where they can actually be Catholic. So they give them this faux Catholicism that keeps them in the castle.
Yeah. No, amen to that. I don't know if anyone has any last questions, except for Commodus. You guys can hit us with them now. I got to get rolling. I heard babies crying, and that's usually my go. It's almost 8 o'clock. It's already past their bedtime. I'm gonna get probably fussed out. So thank you all for a long show.
Yeah,
this is our. We usually do 2 hours. So I think we're hoping to get back into our Thursday shows with On the Edge. This next Thursday, obviously being Ascension Thursday, we'll have to figure if you want to do one next week or do a Wednesday.
Yeah, if we do it, it'll have to be pre-recorded or a different day. Yeah, and then I think we do have one. The one coming up, we're going to do one on liturgical music and basically the death and then the rebirth of liturgical music in Vatican II, and then since. So that I think we're really, and we got a special guest. I won't say who it is. Very special guest and somebody who's been on Catholic Family Podcast before. Excellent voice on the subject. So make sure you join in.
Better looking than all of us too. So
you will
probably enjoy the show more. Yeah, okay, William's pretty close, but no. And we also have a live show on Monday. Again, that will be on Catholic Family Podcast. That was with a guy Terry, who is organizing a pilgrimage this week in Ohio and is going to be in Germany for our pilgrimage in September. So that will be the topic of the day: pilgrimages and young adult get-togethers and whatnot. Kind of how important it is to do things together. Again, be proactive. Go and meet with people. Get men's meetings. Get ladies' meetings. Dominic's wife today, I thought it was really cool. Organized a meeting for mothers to bring their children over to her house, and she taught them how to make sauerkraut, which was really cool. And I think that's a really neat idea, especially with homeschoolers, moms who say, hey, they're probably lonely a little bit. Let's come meet together. Let's go to my house this week. I'm going to show you how to make something. That's awesome. And I think that's the Catholic action. I know we always end up that on the podcast. It probably gets old for people, but that's how we win. Right. See, this is what I mean, where it's like, hey, do things, go and make something happen, pilgrimages or whatever it is. And that's what I think.
I'll push one real quick here. The women's retreat in Spokane in August is one that they had 50, 60, I think, women up there to that, and they have a fantastic time. Father Philip Davis is in charge of it. I think so. We got some folks from Omaha getting ready to go. We got flyers for it, and I think there's a whole bunch of those that are going on throughout the year. But if you can be part of that scene, because that really, you'll be amazed. I know a bunch of our children. We can travel almost anywhere around the country. and our children, or at least it used to be when they were younger, would get out and they would know somebody from a camp that they had been to.
Totally.
And you just get to know the rest. Ours is a small community, and it's very worth getting to know. And if you can get out there and just be part of those types of events, I think you'll really be the better for it.
Like go teach all nations and teach them how to make sauerkraut. Or
Sourdough. That's the next. That's the next one.
Yeah,
Like we're gonna have Kathy come teach all the ladies how to make sourdough.
Do it while Ina's here, because
that is seriously the best.
Italian
best
herbs
food.
and cheese.
Oh my
homemade
goodness.
sourdough bread might be the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Like one that you could sit down with a
record it
loaf
for the
this big
Yes. Yeah.
and eat the entire thing in one sitting. Now that would be worth watching.
Yeah. Well, I could
Like
do
split
that.
up. No, my
one idea at a time.
Later date.
Yeah, right. Well, Dad, I don't know if
All
you
right,
want to wrap
thanks,
it up.
guys. Yep. Yeah, I think we're good. And we will see you next week, and we'll try to get a little bit more active here, especially on the Traditionalists. And God bless everybody.
Let us know what you think about this setup, because
Right.
this was very easy to do.
Right, it
was a lot simpler for us, but a little bit less.
And another good thing
hoopla.
for me to know, if when we do little pregame shows and we do a lot of graphics and stuff like that, that takes a lot of time to put together. Very difficult for me to do. And if we didn't do any of it today, if nobody missed it, then I think we'll just go without, and we can pretty much just do our show. So
say if this video reaches 1,000 likes, we'll invite Commodus on to our next show with Kevin.
it's not going to do 1,000 likes
without Kevin.
Maybe 1,000 views.
1,000 views.
Okay.
If we get to 1,000 views, we'll invite Commodus on.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody. God bless.
God bless.
Bless you.